On the 14th of April 1912, when the ship Titanic sank in the Atlantic, it took the lives of over 1,500 passengers and valuable cargo to the icy depths. Amongst the precious items lost was the world's most valuable poetry book, a jewel-encrusted feat of bookbinding and illustration, the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. This collection of 4-line lyric poems, attributed to an 11th century poet and astronomer, was loosely translated into English verse by writer and academic Edward Fitzgerald in 1859. It became the most popular poetry book by the mid-20th century, celebrated by writers and poets of the day, and with its humanistic themes of facing fate and making the best of life, copies were given to military in the First World War. Publishers, realising the popularity of the book, commissioned illustrated versions that echoed the Western design of the eras, through Art Nouveau, Art Deco and arts and crafts, imbued with Orientalist imagery that was often inappropriate depiction of either the text or the Persian Islamic culture the poems hailed from. There were over 300 illustrated versions, but gradually the book fell out of fashion and is now rarely known. A Rubaiyat has been in my family as long as I can remember. It belonged to my grandfather, who had encouraged my interest in art. This tiny book sparked my project to illustrate and represent a Rubaiyat for a modern audience. How much do we really know about ancient Persia and the modern Iran in the West? Generally very little. I realised the need for sensitivity when creating imagery about a culture other than my own, and set out to discover the meaning of the poems, the worlds of the poet and the translator, the culture of ancient Persia and modern Iran. Lockdown provided online opportunities that never existed before, and I experienced over 40 virtual guided tours in Iran, took part in international cultural symposiums, and experimented with traditional Persian crafts. Showing Rubaiyat-inspired works with the Emotive Collective of MA illustration graduate artists at the Regency Townhouse in 2022. After this show, I changed my art direction to illustrate the Rubaiyat in my own style without mimicking Islamic art or Orientalist work of past illustrations. I sought to represent what remains of Omar Khayyam's world in modern-day Iran and surviving ancient Persian artefacts. My art process involves creating collages that mix my sketches and virtual trip photographs, digitally adjusting the composition, creating intaglio and relief printing plates, plus printing with chine collé Asian tissue papers for jewel-like spot colour. For my final project and show at the University of Brighton Galleries, I created an illustrated book with a foil-blocked vegan leather-bound cover, a printed silk and headscarf hijab inspired by ancient Persian tent panels, a picnic tote bag in foil-blocked vegan leather, and I held a creative workshop called Read, Write and Draw Rubaiyat Poems. In the words of another Persian poet, Rumi, "You are what you seek." My Rubaiyat project helped me to explore and to define my art practice, inspired by the connections between the modern and ancient worlds, the precious and the everyday, the East and the West.